This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching with part 2 of my grandmother's garden, or what I'm going to call probably Pick a Posy. My titles keep changing. In part 2, we're going to start sewing the 28 flowers, or the flower that you're going to do for this project. And here we're back to my neighbor's quilt that was made many years ago, and you can see all the different combinations that she used in it, and I just love it. She used polyfill in part of it, and it just feels old when you feel it. It's so neat, like it's really been used. And she used a muslin for the back. As we go, I'm going to be talking about a thimble, needle, and thread, the things that you're going to need now that you've got your fabric all ready. And I always think it's funny, but the other night I couldn't sleep, so I was up sewing, and I was sitting there just hand sewing and hand sewing. And I was literally having a conversation with you while I was sitting there, because I was saying, well, if we were sitting together, I would say, well, this is this and this and this. So I hope I remember enough of the good stuff that we were talking about. First thing I was going to tell you is that I really learned about the power of the thimble. Now, when I first started sewing, I didn't use a thimble, and my fingers would get sore and they get calloused, and then that was the end of it, and it'd be fine. But then every once in a while I learned to pick up the thimble and try and use it. Well, when I got ready to start this quilt, I was sitting there with my thimble, and it was one that didn't look like this. It had little ridge around the top, and I knew that I've had trouble with it before, but I really didn't think about it until I started trying to make the fine stitches in this quilt, and I said, I can't do this. This is not going to work. And so I went and hunted for one of the ones that's just round all the way around, no ridges, just the little dimples in it. And I want you to know, you can actually wear one of these out. When I was quilting in the hoop, one day I said, what is wrong with it? It's not working. And I had poked a hole in the thimble. And so that is the part about the thimble. And I want to tell you, it's the power of the thimble, because when I changed to that thimble, my fingers just started flying when I was doing those stitches. And I was just having such a good time. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the needle, because in this I actually auditioned a bunch of needles. I took them and I set them in my little pouch, and I threaded a whole series of needles, and I started using one, and I'd use that thread up, and I decided if I liked that one or not. They needed to be sharp, and at first I started wondering whether it was sharp and very thin, but it turned out that it didn't have the strength to push through and do more than one stitch. And with this quilt, you want to be able to do, 3 or 4 stitches most of the time to get through an side. So there, I decided that one was, remember the thing about you've got to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince? Well, I did several needles before I found the ones that I really wanted to use. And then the other thing is your thread. And because the flowers were different colors, I had a roll of a cream color, and it could be white, and then I had a dark color. It could be brown, could be black, because I did have a couple of dark flowers in there. And all of that said, we're going to get on to the stitching. Now, if you remember, we had 2 templates. We had the larger template, and then we cut off 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And you can see I've laid that template on there, gone around it with my mechanical pencil. The very beginning, you're going to take a flowered or a pattern, and you're going to take your solid, and you're going to lay them together. And they're going to lay pretty good. If your pieces were good that you did, they're going to be pretty on. And I'll show you that in a little bit. So what you want to do is just lay them as close as you can together. You're going to come in over here. Now my needle on this is pretty big, and this camera looks pretty big, but it's the one that I was actually using. And then I'm going to backtrack right there, because those points are going to be important to making the shapes be as good as they are. And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to load on. Now I'm going through the camera, so maybe if I remember, I'll let you look at some of the others that I'm doing. that I've done. I've got 24 done. I am so pleased, and I started on the first row last time, and I'm getting it together, and I found the perfect spot to start. Now, when I get over here to the end, I'm going to do another, I'm going to go back, and I probably am going to go back twice because this is going to be the end. Now, you have two choices on this first set going around, and when I open it up, I have to tell you, remember that this yellow is going to be the center of the flower, because I got to sewing one night and I put the two pieces together, and you won't believe what I did. I was just happy sewing, putting the pieces, and we were watching a movie. And I actually had this as the center and then everything else around the outside. And look how much I did before I took a break. And that's really pretty, and I could use it in there, but then I ran out of blue, and so I couldn't finish the edge. So you got to sort of pay attention. But anyway, this one's going to be the yellow, it's going to be the center. Now, when you get ready to do the next one, you can either go up the blue, and that would finish off the petal. It's almost the way you'd like to do it. So let's say that I was going to do that. So I pick up my blue, and I'm going to lay these together. And most of the time on these templates, I did a pretty good job. If you're not pleased with the way that's laying, then turn the piece that you're going to add. All right, and let's see if I put this on the right end. Okay, let's put it. Over here, and you're going to do a lot of this when you're working on it, and my thread's on the back side, so I'm going to take and go from the back side over to that place where we started like before, and I'm going to take and I'm going to do the same thing and run down to the end. And if you look, you can see I went ahead and I stitched down through there, and those were pretty good stitches because I had it away from the camera and could do it on my own. So then I got down to the end, I doubled back, and then I cut my thread off. This is probably where you're going to do most of your cutting off once I show you a good way I found to do it. Then I'm going to open it up, and you can naturally tell which way am I going to go. I'm going to just take and I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to roll my yellow one over the top, because then I like to roll that one over because I can see the lines so well on that. And then I'm going to start, and I'm going to go and do it again. I'm going to start here on the end with my knotted thread. And I can load, with this needle, it's got a fairly nice shaft, and it will go down pretty good. And I don't kill myself doing that when I'm sewing it, because it glides through the material, and I just get the needle and then keep going, because it doesn't matter. You can just do it so that you enjoy it. Now I try to do more than one stitch because it'll take you a while, and you'll go all the way down there to the end, and you'll double back. And now, because I've gotten to this place, let's see what happens. And this is what you sort of do. You don't dangle it like that, but you. Okay. Now watch what happens when I open it. Okay. And then I check where my thread is. And if you'll notice, my thread's up here at the top. So I'm in a great place. Row. Okay, through the magic of video, we've actually changed the colors of our flower and our center, and we're now going to work with pink. And here's what I found out for this row. This is going to be fun. You take, and if you're looking at it, find one of the places where you take your center solid color and you set it on the right-hand side, if you're right-handed. And I don't know that I could figure out left-handed. I always think it should be so obvious what you would do to do it left-handed, and then line it up really nice. And like I said, if you don't like that side that you've got lined up on there, don't worry about the back. because this front is going to be your gauge for where it is. It's amazing how well it's going to turn out. All right, and then we're going to start, and we're going to go down to the end of this little run. Okay, I've done that little run. Remember, I had it on that right-hand side, and I laid that on there, that pink. All right, now we're going to do like we did before. Here's my left side. I'm going to flip my pink over. I'm going to line it up. And I'm going to start right there. I'm going to do the back stitch, and I can actually go right into here. You don't have to really worry about what's happening in the back, because if you set it up where you can see that most of your color is even across the top with the other one, then you're ready to sew down to the end of this one. Okay. And now that we've done those two sections, and if you look at that, and my needle's in the center, I want to go ahead and do this pink one over here just to keep going the way I'm going. So I'm going to add another pink, and he's going to go on the front. Now they got to put face to face. Now these wouldn't matter, but that's where your print is, where you've drawn your line. This is what's going to be fun in a second when we get this run, because if you can see, we've already been able to do 2 runs, and right now I'm going to do a 3rd run. Right there's where my thread is, and I'm going to run down to the end of this one. So far we've saved ourselves having to stop and make 2 knots and cut and start over again. And now we're going to notice that I want to help you get another one, and this is what I got was so much fun as I was going. So you've done what you can do. I've come to a dead end. I'm not going to cut the string. You could do it every time if you wanted to, but I said, how could I do this? So watch, I've got it looking at it. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do what I call a run back stitch. I'm going to take my needle, come back in the back about 1/3 of the way down where I just was. And don't pull it tight. You just want to, and it's going to be hidden under your, when your fabric's folded, and then go in and make a stitch. And you can either, depending on where you were, you can go make 2 stitches and then end up right back where you started that one, be the last time. And all of a sudden I've done a run back, I've got a long stitch on the back, a couple of long stitches, and I'm ready to open it up. Here is my flower, and fold my pink back, and I just saved myself from having to cut off 3 times while I'm sitting here watching a movie, enjoying it. And then I'm going to take my part, and I'm going to lay them, and you'll get it where you can see it. It's so funny. And now you can't change it because you've already sewed it on there, and there's no reason to change it because you've got this nice 1/4 inch seam in there, and then you're ready to start and go. And let's see what happens when I get there. All right, so I did my run back stitch, I turned my material, I did that. Now let's see where I can go. I'll open it up and look at it. All right, I can do 2 things. I could either go ahead and sew across there and stop, or I could go ahead and add my next pink. When I add my next pink on, get it up here. And I think what I'm going to do, instead of putting it on down there, I'm going to add it back on here just like before. I'll turn it over so the right sides are together. Lay it on there. Okay. And if you notice where my thread is, it's right there. But what I want to do is I'm going to run from there out to the edge and then do some back stitches. And then I'm going to do a long stitch back, running stitch back to be right there, and I don't have to knot off again. And it really gets to be fun, because what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to sew all the way out to the end of this one, And then I'm going to do those 2 back running stitches back, and I'll be ready to turn this under and go again. And I have saved myself another knot. And I got where I had a nice long string, as long as my string didn't knot, that I could keep going and see how many I could get without having to stop. So I've got it all the way out to the end, and I'm going to do that run back. So I'm just going to have the front side facing me. I'm going to come down, and just the big thing is don't make it tight, don't pull it because it'll distort the back. And then get all the way down there. And usually I could do it with 2 stitches, and then I'd be back there. I just wanted you to see that one more time, and it's hid back there. And then I'm ready to turn. And look how good I've done. And that was going to be the second row, and get those pinks all the way around. And you even appreciate doing the run back stitch on this run because of the number of petals. When you get to the last one where you have to do 18 petals around with that outside color, you really appreciate using that run back stitch. So today I shared how I have been putting together those flowers. I've got 24 out of 28, and I'm going to get those finished. We talked about how important a good thimble can be, and it's the thimble that helps your fingers to fly. So everybody finds their own thimble that they like. Then we talked about the thread having a light and dark thread. We talked about the needle having a sharp needle for this project, and auditioning enough of them that you find the one that helps you to glide through that nice material that you have. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. I hope this has been helpful to you. This is a really neat project, and I look forward to getting ready. I've started doing the background. It's going to take, for this quilt, it's going to take 600 of those little patches to sew the back. But by the time you get done doing enough run back stitches, you'd be just flying through that as you get it to go together. Thank you for watching. Any notes that I have and will be found in the description. If this was helpful and you like this kind of sewing, then please subscribe and hit like and leave some comments. Thank you.